I'm in Cambridge for the Criteriums put on by Monument Racing today. Bank holiday weekend in August. No better way to spend it than watching some cycling. First up, we've got the women's 3-4, then the men's 3-4, then there's a cargo bike race, which I'm looking forward to seeing. Then we've got the elite men's and the elite women's. So plenty of racing. I'll see what I can capture.
Along with the racing taking place, there was plenty of support on Jesus Green, supplier stands, Red Bull in full support, things to try and do, as well as the fun cycle around the circuit with the music pumping. The 2.6k racecourse is at the heart of the historic city of Cambridge. Starting on Victoria Avenue by Jesus Green, it winds its way round the historic streets past Magdalen College, St John's College, winding its way round Sweepen Bends near Jesus College, round it comes and finishes back on Victoria Avenue. The course itself is fairly flat with very little elevation across the course itself. The racing started off with the women's Cat 3-4 crit. The race looked like it was going to kick off fairly early with a few riders pushing on the front on the second lap, but the group stayed together and we didn't really see much action throughout this race. As you can see, the bunch stayed pretty close and racing was kept fairly casual with most of the riders all being able to hold on. Now I'm sure within the bunch itself it didn't feel that casual, but certainly no one was pushing on and it was a bunch sprint at the end for Caitlin Harvey to take the win. The men's 3-4 race was a wildly different affair with the pace being hot from the very first lap. As you can see, the large group of riders was stretched out from the beginning with some already struggling to hold on only the second lap. As you can see, riders pushing on hard as they're coming round the corner here on the third lap, and you can see everyone's looking pretty strung out already. The pace is really on and stringing this race out. You can see some of the riders here thinking, what am I in for? At the front, the pace kept on with people jostling for position whilst others were just trying to hold on. You can already see the splits in the group here. This is lap 4 and the race has been pretty much blown apart already. There's a big gap here to the chase and back group, and this is definitely going to give them some problems later on in the race. The riders at the front of the pack kept applying the pressure, and this just made the field string out and really did break the race up. In Cat 3-4 racing, the difference between those at the Cat 4 and those Cat 3s pushing on to Cat 2s is absolutely massive, and this is a really hard race to be in for new riders. You can see there we've got one rider pushing on, trying to get a bit of a breakaway off the front, but you can see the groups are really starting to split now. Little gaps between, and these gaps may seem small, but they are so difficult to close down with the speed these riders are going round here. Really tough for these riders. You can see them really pushing on just to hold on to any part of this race, and you can see at the front a group has formed now, few off the back of that front group, but this is the final front group now. And if you weren't in that front group, unfortunately the commissaires had to pull them off the course for safety reasons to allow for a safe sprint finish, and the win was taken by Tom Evans of London Dynamo. Of course, the main event of the day was the men's elite race. These are the best riders on circuit of the day, and you can see straight from the whistle they are off with a rider making for an early surge. Not sure here whether he was starting to build out just to break the pack or what the plan was, but this guy went quite early, was latched on by 3 more riders I believe here, and definitely these guys strung it out, but they weren't left much of a leash and were soon brought back by the rest of the group. But as you can see, the pace is clearly on as the whole pack is being strung out now, and there's plenty of pace on. Here we have another small break of 4 riders going off the front there. We had Alec from Techers in there and a Shields rider, and you can see they've already got a small gap over the front pack.
Go on, Cam.
You can hear me there supporting local rider Cam Hurst in his first elite race here in Cambridge. And as you can see at the front, some riders are definitely trying to force a small break group. Not sure if this will be successful at this time, but they are certainly pushing on, and you can really see the pack is starting to break apart at this time. We're 40 minutes in, and rider from Wheelbase, Thomas Armstrong, has pushed on for a little solo break. Not sure if he was going there for a preem or what the idea was, but he's certainly been allowed to go clear by the pack. So they don't seem too worried because there's a decent gap here and they haven't closed that down straight away. And you can see the whole peloton through there. But Thomas still off, but he is being started to be closed down by the group, and you can see it stringing out a little bit at the front there as some pressure's applied to bring Thomas back into the group. They definitely didn't want to let him go, and you'll see there he's been brought back, but some more riders trying to push off the front of this race just to get that elusive break they were hoping for. And it is successful, and Thomas has made the break of 6 riders off the front, plus a Shields rider. Nice to see Shields in there, local team to me at Colchester there. And you can see they've got a decent gap over the pack here. The pack let this go out to around 28 seconds. So a decent gap for the break. And they are definitely pushing on. And you can see the break is actually working fairly well together at this time as they come through and riders pull off, taking turns as they push the pace to stay away from that main pack. You can see them strung out, rider pulls off, another rider comes through, and you can see the break is really working well there. They are still holding at least a 25-second lead over the main chasing pack, and they are really working well. You can see still looking at each other, all doing the work, but there is a little bit of easing up of times as we get 30 minutes to go in the race. And you can see the barrier there a little bit tight as they go around some of the historic streets of Cambridge. These are tight streets at times, sweeping bends, but the surface, as you can see, is not perfect by any means. But still a good 20-second plus lead over the main chasing pack. And you can see that chase pack really stringing out now as the pressure's applied to bring back the break. But the 6 in the break still strung out, working through, taking their turns. This is really working for the break there. You can see Thomas Armstrong on the front, really trying to encourage the rest of the riders as he comes back through to keep working in this break. And the break continues to push on as the peloton chases them, trying to bring them back. But this gap at this stage was not coming down. It didn't seem to be moving. There seemed to be no major effort from the peloton to bring it down. You'll see the motorbike has now moved behind to try and allow no drafting from that front group. There was a complaint and the commissaires dealt with that. And you can see the bike following there so that no draft is given as an advantage to those front riders. But look at the clock as it counts through now. We've got 23 minutes to go and the time is still ticking away. That front bunch, look at this lead, well over 13 seconds, 13.24 seconds on the clock there. The break is starting to can't be pulled back by the peloton. As you can see, they're still trying to work, but there's a small push on the front of the main peloton, trying to bring the break back, and that's pushing on the peloton to increase their speed. You can see here, the gap now is only 15 seconds. Techers there pushing on, trying to pull the break back. Nobody wants to let this race go. They want to bring it back to a bunch sprint if there's any way they can. But to us, it didn't look with 1 lap to go like the break was going to be able to pull it back. It still looked like a good 15 seconds and I really didn't think it was going to come back. But as you'll see in the final meters coming down the straight, the motorbike has to hit his horn and get by, and it is for one reason: the peloton has caught the break, and that is coming down to a bunch sprint. And this is where it got exciting. You can see some riders have given up. They're not made that sprint and they're sitting up now. But at the front, this sprint is very much on, and Tom Armstrong takes the win. Well done, Tom Armstrong. He pushed hard throughout that race.
You pleased with that?
Yeah, hung in, so
Yeah.
that was great fun. Yeah, 29.6 average in the end. That was nuts.
I was amazed they brought it back. Last lap there was a good gap.
What was it, 4 up the road? Or?
Yeah, there was at least 6, I think. One of your guys.
I think that might have been Carl.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, Carl.
Yeah, he was up there, and they were doing well, man.
That's good fun, yeah.
Yeah, good. Well, mate.
So the final race of the day, the Women's Elite. What can we expect in this race? Now the field is not massive here, but there is a solid 30 riders taking part in this. And as you can see early on, the pace pushes on and splits the group quite quickly into those that are in the race and those that aren't. As they come round the narrow streets, however, it just tucks in there, the railing, and you'll see in the background there is a small crash just there. A few riders do go down, unfortunately, and this does split the group. You'll see the riders at the front sort of sit up a bit unsure what to do. They know something's happened behind, but fortunately most riders were able to carry on, although I'm sure some unfortunately got dropped due to that unfortunate incident. As the race progressed, you see some of the riders just trying to push the pace on and break this peloton up, because there was still quite a large bunch at the front of the race, and nobody seemed to want this to come down to a brunt sprint in this race. Perhaps they've been watching the men's and they thought they didn't want to end up like that. You can see here the pace being controlled by Spectre Racing there, and they're all together as a bunch, and it seemed fairly well organised at the front. But then 4 riders want to make this break, and they are just pushing on now to see if they can force a gap. This had been tried for a few laps and nothing had successfully got away, but here you can see the rider at the front just checking, will I get away this time? And they have. The break has gone, the 4 are up the road, and the peloton really don't look like they're wanting to chase. I'm sure some teams controlling there. You can see the 4 girls are off the front, handling well, line astern. I'm not sure how well they were working together, how much the turns are being taken. You can see the Spectre rider pulling off there, trying not to do all the work on the front, but she did always seem to be fairly close there to the front until when it mattered, and it came down to the sprint, and there was no denying who was going to take the win in this one, as Sophie Lewis from Das Hutchinson pushed hard in the sprint to take the win. As the rest of the bunch came in for a close sprint, I was a little bit concerned. There seemed a bit of touching, but all the women got across the line safely.